Hey guys, so you might remember that the last time I did a romance novel review, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I read these three novels in a row and they had these weird connections, but I guess sometimes that's just how your holds get released when you have tons of books on hold at the library. Well, I did it again, kind of accidentally, I guess. I mean, I requested both books, and this time I remembered that I requested both books, but they both came through on Overdrive at the exact same time, and they were very similar. Like, this wasn't as fun as the last time. These were like two excessively similar books, and I felt really bad, honestly, because while I would love to judge every book on its own merit, these books had so much in common that it was impossible not to judge them together, so I'm going to review them together. So the two books that I'm going to be talking about are two fake engagement romance novel trope books. This is, of course, the famous trope where two characters who have not been in a relationship at the start of the book get fake engaged for some reason or another, and then of course as their fake engagement continues, the love begins to blossom and it turns into a real relationship. Sometimes a real engagement and a real marriage, sometimes not, but that's the idea behind this one. And in particular, these two books had Indian American Muslim female protagonists, and one, the male protagonist, is white, and the other, he's also not Indian American, actually. He's actually from Tanzania by way of London. And so the families are very similar. The storyline is a bit similar. Both of these fake engagements kind of come about because the female main character is feeling a lot of pressure to enter into a marriage or a arranged, they don't really call it arranged marriage. I like this phrase, facilitated marriage. And they're feeling a lot of pressure because they're just about on the shelf as far as their families are concerned. So that's like the setup there for both of these. And the first one that I read was called The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai. And the main characters in this one are Daisy, who is an Indian American data programmer, and Liam, who is a Irish American ex-ish boyfriend who suddenly reappears in Daisy's life at a moment, and she just kind of calls him her fiance. So Daisy's life has kind of been out of control. Her job has been very terrible. She's had to move to a new place. Her last boyfriend ended very poorly. And of course she has the drama of her family trying to say, well, you should get engaged, you should get married, you're old, you're like 30. But Daisy's very smart, and she is at a conference presenting products to investors, and lo and behold, Liam shows up. He's now working as a capital investor, and right when one of Daisy's aunts is about to descend upon her with a marriageable dude in tow, and her ex-boyfriend and her ex-boss show up, turns out they're together now, Daisy literally runs into Liam and calls him her fiance, where everyone can hear, and everybody's like, wow, okay. And it gets her family off her back, and it makes her feel better in front of her ex-boyfriend. A little later on, Liam, this is a dual point of view, Liam has had a family member die, his grandfather, and he is inheriting a huge part of the family legacy, a brewery, but the stipulation is that Liam must marry before his 30th birthday, which is coming up in a couple of months. And all of a sudden Liam goes, I have a fake fiance just kind of hanging out. It's already out there in the air. This is complicated by the fact that Liam and Daisy sort of dated. He was her date to her prom, but they didn't actually date before that. Before that, Liam was best friends with Daisy's older brother. He spent a lot of time at their house, and the night of prom, Liam just up and disappeared. No one really knew where he went, but he, left Daisy hanging the night of prom, and she has never, ever forgiven him, but of course she had a major crush on him when she was little. So that is the premise of the dating plan. Daisy, as a programmer and a computer programmer, is wants things in a specific order. Liam's more, hey, just go with the flow kind of a thing, used to be a bad boy. And so the dating plan comes from Daisy, who is just like, okay, and for date 1 we will do this, and date 2 we will do this, and here's our story, and here's this, that, and everything else. So she's trying to like plot this, and Liam's just kind of like, don't you ever have fun? So there's nothing wrong with the dating plan, I should say. It's very fine. It's the exact story that you would imagine. It's cute, it's quirky, they have stuff to work through. Of course, there's that thing, 75 to 80% of the way in where Liam gets dumb. I mean, the fun part about that is that Daisy's like, Liam, you're just dumb. Instead of, her also doing something, she's just like, Liam, just get over yourself. I think what ended up making this just an okay book is that by the end, there is also a lot of family stuff. The reason that Liam ditched her at prom, the whole thing with the brewery and Liam's brother, and the ending ends up feeling really long because there are multiple heart-to-heart conversations, and it closes. First there's obviously Daisy and Liam to fix, there's Daisy and her family, there's Liam and his family, and it just ends up being like this really, really long, perfectly bow-tied ending, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but I was like, okay, all right, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready for this book to be done. So again, there's nothing wrong with it. It's really cute. I would hand it to you if you said, I want a fake engagement book, but problem is the book that I read after it. So after I read The Dating Plan, I read Accidentally Engaged by Farrah Heron, and this book just got me in so many feels. The female main character of this one is Rena. She is a Indian American who has done as much as she can to remove herself from her family situation. Should mention that Daisy, for example, she was still living with her dad, but Rena has kind of made a separate life for herself, also in finance. She does not want to go into the family business of property development, and she is trying so hard to be out on her own. But she is a huge baker, particularly of sourdough and of pastry, and it is her dream to run either her own bakery, take really big bakery classes, or have a cooking show, a cookbook, something. She is an amazing chef, and as someone whose mom is massively into sourdough, like the pages upon pages of sourdough jokes in this are just, oh, they're so good. So good. The male main character of this one, his name is Nadeem, and he shows up in Rena's building one day and super flirts with her before learning her name, and then learns her name, and that's unfortunate for both of them because Rena is also like, wow, this guy is super attractive, wow. And he's like, oh, I have been brought here by your father to work for his property development company and potentially marry you. And Rena's like, oh my God, now I have to hate you because I've tried so hard to carve out my own life. Of course, that only lasts so long before one of Rena's friends tells her about a cooking show competition that he feels, be a shoo-in to win. The stipulation is that she needs to have either a husband or a fiance. This is a family-focused show, so everyone is doing their cooking show with either a significant other or their mother, their sibling, their children, whatever it is. So Rena goes, hey, Nadeem. By this point, they've managed to actually become fairly decent friends, living across the hallway from each other, and he's like, yeah, sure. Like, what's the difference? No one in your family is going to know. So they pretend to be engaged. Accidentally Engaged has a huge extra layer that's really, really well done of Rena's family in particular and her friend group. This is not to say that the dating plan did not have the family layer. It's also very strong in this one. But there's something a little bit extra in that layer in Accidentally Engaged. Rena has a little sister who actually cost Rena a cookbook deal that she had based on a food blog she used to run that was very popular. And now her little sister is engaged and working at a nutrition store and is supposed to be creating this cookbook that after she's gotten some traction at her nutrition store. And so Rena really feels like her sister kind of stole her dream of having this cookbook and doesn't know how to handle that interaction with her sister wanting to be supportive but also being really hurt. Rena's mom and dad each individually have their own secrets, and it turns out that their family is kind of like, just don't talk about it and it doesn't exist atmosphere has created something that is kind of toxic, but also when it begins to unravel, just ends up showing them growing together as a family, which is really, really cute. Just Rena and her sister's relationship alone is worth watching grow and build and heal over the course of the novel, which is really great. And then Rena and Nadim just have such excellent chemistry, even though, you know, this is a romance novel and it was kind of fast. You really do see the friendship that happens before the romance, and I really believed that and loved it, and it made their relationship feel really cute. Of course, the whole thing with the ending where it turns out, you know, someone hasn't been totally honest is like, whatever. But even that ends up having extra layers to it about their community and, you know, her father's business relationships, and I just felt like it had a little bit extra pizzazz to it, and I really enjoyed it. And it's unfortunate for the dating plan because I don't know what that review would have looked like without Accidentally Engaged right on the back of it. I might have been feeling stronger about it. But with Accidentally Engaged having so many extra layers to it, it was just so good. So I don't think you could go wrong with either of these books, but if you are in the library and you're holding both books and you're like, which one do I choose? I would take Accidentally Engaged home, or both of them. Just read The Dating Plan and then Accidentally Engaged. I read them thankfully in the right order, and I hope this review helps you to do so as well. I am just loving these romance novels that I find. While I love reading them like popcorn, I can sometimes read one in a single sitting. These ones with this little extra layer of something, the family, the relationships, the friends, they just really warm my heart a little bit extra. So Accidentally Engaged was that for me, and I hope that whatever you read next, it also helps to warm your heart. Whichever genre helps you do that. So thank you for taking this time to hang out with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye!